Hello everyone, welcome to the Additional Tips for Classes video. This video will cover a series of topics that will help you get more comfortable working with classes in Main Street sites. We're going to talk about using the classes grid, talk about some additional features there, editing classes, deleting, copying, moving classes between semesters, sending an email to the enrollments in a class, and finally rolling classes forward to a new semester, which is super important as you create new semesters over time. So let's get right to it here. We're going to switch to the Main Street Sites backend, and we're going to go to the Manage tab, the Classes submenu, and click on Classes. And here we have our familiar classes grid with the set of filters for things like location, teacher, and class type. And we've got the winter semester selected here. So let's highlight a few things we didn't talk about in the previous video. We've got an option here, a couple checkboxes to show deleted classes. We don't have any of those right now. We're going to ignore that. We've got show expanded seat counts, and that shows us a little more information about the enrollments, makeups, and demos in a class. I'm going to unselect that. The system will run a little faster when you don't use those extra options, but it's great to have them when you want them. Similarly, we're in the setup view here. Over on the right, I can click to a thing called the enrollment view, and that gives me just a slightly different version of my class information, focused mainly on enrollments, as you'd expect. How many are enrolled, how many families, how many seats are available, how many enrollments are not taking a seat, using our special feature that allows infants to not take a seat, things like that. That's our enrollment view. I'm going to switch back to the setup view for the rest of this video. Continuing on this grid, other things of note, we clicked on the Add button in the previous video. The More button has got lots of features, and this video is mainly going to be concerned with looking at how those work. Before we get there, though, let's just talk about a couple things in this grid here. You've probably noticed that clicking on the highlighted name of the class will take you in and edit the class. You've probably noticed, too, that when you hover over a class, you get a little blue menu on the right. We're highlighting here now. And if you click on that, you'll get another edit option. And you'll also get some options for copying and deleting a class, as well as attendance and a couple different attendance options. We'll talk about attendance in a different video, but let's keep talking about editing. There's another option that most people don't know about, just double-clicking a class. Like if we double-click here, that'll take you right in to edit the class as well. And these things hold throughout Main Street sites. Any grid should work the same way. And one more thing to notice, as we hover over these classes, we're getting a little sort icon in the grid. You can use that to sort your classes. You can drag and drop, as we can illustrate here, to change the sort order. One thing to mention, though, there are lots of layout options in Main Street sites, and some of those will override the sort order you see here. So depending on how you have your layout set up, you may or may not see these sort changes flow through to all of your website pages. So take a look at the videos on named layouts to learn more about that if you have any questions. Okay, so here we talked a little bit about editing just now. Deleting a class, as you've probably already guessed, is going to be right in this menu here, and I can just choose delete. I'll get a little screen that says, are you sure? And there's a little option here that says, do you want to delete it permanently? And the difference there is a lot of people come to support and say, oops, I deleted some classes. I didn't really think it through. Well, that's what this option is here for. If you don't click delete permanently, we'll delete it, but you can get back to it if you need it. So you can think a second or two when you delete your classes whether you really want to get rid of them or you're okay with having them hidden behind the scenes. And if you have done what we call a soft delete and it's not deleted permanently, this little option here will show you those deleted classes in the list. And here we see there's some deleted classes from some prior work. And we could just go here and undelete that class, and it'll just bring it right back to the regular list. So that's your way to delete and undelete classes. As you might expect, though, if you chose the delete permanently option, those classes will be gone for good. And sometimes that's just what you want. That was deleting. Copying, you probably noticed as well, there's a little copy option here. The quickest way to copy a class is just to go to the class and hover over the menu and choose copy. And that'll take you right into a blank class form with the information filled in. You can make whatever changes you want to make. Maybe you're going to change the time and save that copy of the class, and it'll get added to the list. I'm going to back out here because I don't want to save that. There's a more advanced way to copy, and we're going to take a look at that now. We just looked at copying a single class, but if you said to me, oh, you know what I really want to do is copy 5 classes or 10 classes, in that case, you can go to the More menu and choose the Copy Classes option, and it'll show you, first it'll say, hey, what semester did you want to copy those to? Maybe I'm copying them into winter, and I just want to create some additional classes in winter, or I can copy them to a different semester. Either way is supported. I'm going to pick my new semester as the target for my copy, and I'm going to say go, and it'll show me a list of the classes and say, okay, which ones did you really want to copy? And I can check them all using this checkbox up at the top, and it's going to pick all the classes, or I can pick them onesie twosie, whichever the case may be, whichever I want, and I can make some little changes along the way too if I wanted to copy them, but really I wanted to change the location before I did so. All that stuff is possible from here. And then down the bottom, there'll be an option to say, okay, go ahead and do the copy. I don't want to go through with that now, so I'm going to click cancel, and it takes me back to my list of classes. So there's a couple ways to copy there. We mentioned moving is also on our list for this video. Moving is very similar to copying, but in that case, you're really just saying, hey, I want these classes out of this semester, and I want them in some other semester. Let's take a look at that one. I click on Move. Here are my classes in winter. I'm going to select them all. And I'm going to say, hey, let's move those into this new semester, which is a blank semester. So if I say go, all those classes it says have been moved. I'm going to go back to classes here. Here's my winter semester, and now it is empty. And my new semester has got all those classes in it. I'm going to move them back here to restore order here. I'm going to select them all, select winter, and they should all move right back. Let's see how I did. Return to classes, and my new semester is now empty, and winter should have all those classes back again. And there they are. And one thing to mention about moving and copying that we've talked about so far, that is not a way to start a new semester. To start a new semester, you really want to use the roll forward feature, and we'll show that in just a minute. These other things are just to help you if you've put them in the wrong place or you just want a quick copy of a class. That's what those features are for. So we're going to get into roll forward in just a minute, but we'll talk about one more thing before we do, which is a common request we get is how do I send an email to a particular class or set of classes? Well, that's super easy from Manage Classes here. I just check off the classes I'm interested in, and I say send user email to selected, and it'll hop me over to send email, which is the marketing email feature that will be discussed in a separate video. We're not going to cover it here, but it does take you in there, and it has those classes preloaded. We see them in this list here, and you just pick the email that you want to send and continue following the prompts. So that's a quick way to send an email to a particular class or set of classes. And of course, it's going to use the enrollments for those classes when figuring out who to send the email to. Okay, let's go back to classes and finish our video with our biggest topic here, which is roll forward. And as we said a few minutes ago, when you create a new semester, you don't have any classes in that semester yet, but typically you want to copy a full schedule from some prior semester. So we're going to use as an illustration here that my new semester that we used before, and it's empty now. And let's say we want to copy in classes from winter, the entire schedule. And what will we want to do? We'll want to remove the enrollments from those classes and update the dates of all the class meetings. And that's just what roll forward does. So let's choose roll classes forward. And it's going to say, hey, what are we rolling from? Well, in this case, I'm rolling from winter, and I'm going to roll to my new semester. And it's going to want to know when are those classes going to start? And for this illustration, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to pick a Monday. And that would be the date of your first class. And from there, it'll figure out all the other dates for the classes that follow. So if you have classes on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if you pick the first day, we'll just figure out in sequence what the next logical days are, and we'll lay out that schedule for you. And of course, you'll get to see that before it gets saved. Another option here is how long should the new semester be? Often if you're rolling from fall to winter, it doesn't really matter. You'll just have the same number of weeks. Maybe it's 10 weeks or 12 or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you're rolling into summer, for example, and you have a shorter semester, and it's really an 8-week semester, and that's when you use this option. And we'll update the number of weeks as we create those new classes. Another option to consider before we click the button here is, do I want to copy the enrollments from the classes? In many cases, people start fresh. The classes have no enrollments, and they want to make them available on their website. But if you wanted to, you can click the copy enrollments option, and you can say, hey, I want those enrollments in the enrolled status, or maybe I want them to be pending, and I'm going to do some confirmations with my families before I decide whether or not those people are really enrolled in the classes. And similarly, I could choose another status. It could be the new to be reviewed status when copying those enrollments. For this illustration, though, I'm not going to copy enrollments. I'm just going to say go. And what this is going to do is similar to the prior thing we looked at with the copying and moving. It gives me a list of the classes and lets me pick and choose which ones I really want to copy. And it pre-selects everybody, and it lets me, it shows me the new dates that it's figured out based on my selections. And it has preloaded the duration, the 8 weeks we talked about. And from here we could do any overrides that we want. Maybe this class is really going to be taught by somebody else, and maybe this class is moving to, some new location. Or maybe this class, I'm not running it this semester, and I'm just going to remove it, so I can just deselect it if that's what I want to do. And when I'm ready, down at the bottom, let's see, roll classes forward now. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to click on that, and if I did my work properly here, those classes will just roll right into my new semester. So we see now my new semester has got the 12 classes that I rolled forward, and they've got my new start date and my new duration. And there are no enrollments in the classes because part of this is we're creating new classes with no enrollments in them. And that's an important point to make. That's why you don't want to just update the start date of your classes and run them again, or just move them into the new semester, because the enrolled students would still be there, and that's not typically what people want to do. And that's why we use roll forward. To close out this video, let's talk about where you would find help for these topics and other similar ones. And for that, as always, you'd go to the question mark, you'd go to help, and the structure here is the same as the back end in Main Street Sites. So we'd go to manage, we'd go to classes, pick classes, and here we've got topics on rolling classes forwards and similar things like that. And that concludes this video. Thank you so much for listening.